Well, hello again, everybody. This is John Norris at Trading Perspectives. As always, we have our good friends Sam Clement and Courtney Trush. Y'all say hello.
How's it going?
Hey, John.
Hey, guys. Here we are today. We're taping this on Ash Wednesday, February the 22nd, 2023. And it's really the beginning of Lent, sort of the time of atonement or what have you for Christians around the world. And one of the things that people will often give up are things that are keeping them from a relationship with God, and not to be too religious, but it's a big, important part of the Christian calendar. And you often hear about people giving up sweets or alcohol, but increasingly I hear people talk about giving up social media, because social media has become such a time suck, or time octopus or squid, just soaks up everything, sponge, and just It keeps you away from focusing on things which are more important in your life. I think we've all been guilty of it. If you haven't, well, I think you might be lying to yourself. I mean, 95% of people have either wasted time on social media, and the other 5% are lying about it. I think that's what it is. We've gone on social media and we've looked at something. Next thing you know, it's 15, 20 minutes later, and we don't really know what's going on. And so that's the reason why people are saying, I've gotten kind of addicted to this. It's not like a medical addiction or what have you, but it's a time addiction or something like that. And so a lot of people are thinking about giving up. And Courtney, if I'm not mistaken, you often talk about how you hate yourself for loving reels too much. I not hate yourself, but you wish that you didn't enjoy them as much as you do.
Yeah, I think anybody who uses social media, and it's just so easy, right? We always have our phones with us, and you're just like, oh, I have a quick second, or I'm waiting for someone to call me back. I'm waiting for them to email me back. Someone's about to walk in my office. I can't get anything done in the next 2 minutes. I'll just look at social media. And then inevitably you spend more than just the 2 minutes on social media. And then after it, you're
Is this happening during working hours?
I think it can happen during working hours, yes. But also when you
about
get
how
home.
much?
How much of your time do you think you're spending on social media in the work hour?
I won't be spending any, because I'm giving it up for Lent. So I should be
how
really
about that?
productive in the next 40 days.
Go.
But I think...
And you'll be able to be present in your loved ones' lives. That was your New Year's resolution.
Well, and also when you look at, and I know that people have brought light to this, but it's kind of, keeping up with the Joneses, or everyone in social media, their lives look so great, right? Like they show their kids smiling in the picture. I mean, it's this fabrication.
It's fraudulent.
Right. And I don't think it's necessarily always intended that. I think some is, but I don't think it's always intended to be that. But I'm not always keen on posting pictures where I don't look attractive or don't think that I look my best, right? Like no one wants to post and put that out there. But when you always look at people who are traveling, or, oh, they look so great, or, oh, look at their happy family, and you start thinking, well, gosh, I didn't go on that fun trip, or, oh, my kids were terrible today, or, whatever it is, you kind of get in your own head, and it makes you sad or depressed, right? That you can have that, or you're just mad at yourself that you spent the last 20 minutes looking at reels instead of doing all the other things that you should be doing.
What's interesting about what you just said, and Sam and I have talked about this in the past, whenever I see that young family that looks so perfect and happy and, traveling and best looking clothes, and it's a great picture of not just mom, but the kids and all that stuff. Every time I see something like that, I don't get depressed for myself. I get depressed for Courtney and how her family's really not measuring up. Sam, your thoughts on that?
Like you said,
Thanks, guys.
Like you said, we've talked about that a lot.
Sure.
No reason for you to be paranoid or anything like that.
Right.
But we've talked about it, and we've decided that you are paranoid. But
I think social media in general, like a bigger conversation, is that the attention span. Like, look at our society, look at our youth and how we consume information. They now say that that anything can grab someone's attention for about 47 seconds. 47 seconds, not even a minute. That is pretty bad. And I mean, that's compared to in 2004, according to an article, they said that the average attention span was 2.5 minutes. And then it went from a few years later to 75 seconds. And now in 2023, it's 47 seconds.
It's not good.
No.
But to me, the bigger concern than that is a concerning, I think, especially in developed countries, the reliance on social media. But you also see it in the mental health data and the depression statistics and the suicide statistics, especially for very young people and especially young females, teenagers, the data behind that. has without a doubt correlated strongly with the increase in social media activity, especially for younger people, over the last really 10, 12 years.
It's funny. It's not funny that you said that, but I was watching the news this weekend, and they specifically talked about how young women, specifically kind of that preteen age, have a higher feeling of hopelessness. That's being reported, that girls are struggling with a sense of hopelessness, and for some reason that's more geared towards females than males.
Well, I think part of it is just social media, and the social medias that are the keeping up with the Joneses type are just naturally, I think, more heavily used by females, especially on the younger side.
Yeah, and I think we've probably talked about this before, but there's something like ignorance is bliss a little bit. Like when I grew up, you didn't have social media, so I didn't know if somebody was at somebody's house hanging out, or, unless they told you, but for the most part you weren't aware that maybe you had been left out, and it would be after the fact. But if you saw all the pictures or all your friends were doing something and you blatantly were left out, it's like...
now you're basically finding out how much you are being left out.
Right. Yeah. And that would be...
How does that feel?
God, I mean, even as an adult, I struggle with it. I couldn't imagine if I was a young child,
So how do you fix it?
Yeah, how do you fix it? How do you get to the point, Courtney, where...
You give it up for Lent, and
you give it up.
Apparently, I'm going to be a much happier person.
But do you think your attention span, that's really kind of what we're trying to talk about here today,
right,
is
yeah.
Do you think your attention span will increase from 47 seconds or whatever it is now back up to the 2 minutes or something thereabout? Do you think that'll happen just because you've given up your social media for Lent? And Sam, I'm going to make a little side bet with you. And what do you think the likelihood of Courtney going 40 days without looking at Facebook or Instagram, TikTok, or Pinterest or any of
first off, I'm only giving up Facebook and Instagram.
Okay,
I
so
don't
you're
use Twitter.
This.
Well, no, those are the
Are they
only
not
two
a-
social
no.
media that I use. I don't count Pinterest as social media, but I don't really.
Okay, all right. So
I mean, it's social and it's media, and there's
No, but it's not like Reels.
all right.
And
Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
And TikTok.
well, yeah, but I don't have my own account. on
Okay.
TikTok.
All right. Sam, I'm going to make a bet with you. I'm going to bet you $5 that if Courtney is honest with us, she is not going to be able to go 40 days without looking once at
On
Facebook.
my device. I can't control other people.
That's no. Without looking
yeah, I'm
once.
not
Okay,
taking that bet then.
But I just saw you on yours, but does that count? If you were looking at social media and I saw it on your phone?
No, I mean,
Okay.
if
I just want to make sure I
looking at-
understand the parameters of this bet.
No, but I mean, you can't sit there and go, "Hey, why don't you could you pull up something and let me look
Right,
at
okay,
it?"
yeah.
That type deal.
Fair enough.
$5?
No, I'm with you.
All right.
I'm
Well,
on the
let's
same
bet
side.
Courtney. Let's bet Courtney this. Courtney, because it's you, bet you $1 that you can't do it, and you have to be
$2
honest.
total.
$2 total.
Yes, I will take
shake
that
on.
bet.
All right.
All right.
There you go.
I just got $2.
You're going to have to wait till Easter, or actually Easter Monday, in order to collect from me,
Fine.
Missy. But that's just the way that is. But really, I mean, the story here is, the loss of, I think, productivity.
Oh, for sure.
Just due to people having lesser attention span. And guys, I think we've all seen it. Maybe not in ourselves quite as much, but how many times have you been to a store, the Walmart, some other, it just doesn't matter where it is, and the workers there are looking at their phone.
Drives me nuts.
They're supposed to be stocking shelves, doing whatever, and they're sitting there staring at their phone.
Drives me nuts.
It drives me bananas because if they were actually intent on doing their jobs as opposed to looking at social media and keeping up with the Joneses, as you said, then my goodness, who knows how much work we could actually get done. And not surprisingly, last year, Courtney, worker productivity fell dramatically during the first couple quarters of last year. Now that is obviously just nothing more than the delta between GDP and the labor force participation or the labor force growth. But even so, I would have to say for a certain skilled worker, that decrease in attention span, and I do think a huge chunk of it is due to technology, that decrease in attention span has made that lower skilled and semi-skilled worker even less productive than they were in the past. Sam, your thoughts?
100%. I just don't think you can even argue that. Everybody, I've always thought one of the best ways to kind of slow down time, or the feeling of slowing down time, is to getting off social media and getting off screens in general, whether it's TV, movies, your phone, what have you, that is a part of everybody's workday in some form or another, or at least, broadly speaking. And so think how much time we're talking about, that 2 minutes turned into 15 minutes. Yeah. Multiply that by everybody working in the workforce.
Well, I mean, my goodness. I mean, just imagine that amount of time. Now, this morning, I've got to tell myself I woke up at 5 o'clock, wanted to go back to sleep till 6:30 or thereabouts. And it's amazing how much time I have in the morning now that I'm no longer fixing breakfast for kids or what have you.
Well, and you used to prepare like a feast for
Well,
your
I did.
children.
I used to cook a pretty big meal. Much unlike the Pop-Tarts I used to get when I was a kid. I can't stand those things to this day. But I got up and I'm tossing and turning, and there's this one particular feed that I follow on Instagram. It's called Fake Food Channel. And it's this Chinese guy, or Chinese-American fellow, is probably about 22, 23, and he has this 84-year-old Chinese grandfather. And what he does is he takes them to Panda Express. He takes them and gets shopping mall Chinese food. He takes them to get food from Trader Joe's, Chinese food from Costco and all that stuff. And then he sits there and they eat it. And is this any good, Granddad, and all that stuff. And it's really funny. I mean, it's kind of funny listening to this old Chinese fellow go, oh, this tastes and all that stuff. And the thing is, the dude on his story hit a teaser reel, or whatever it's called, teaser reel. 30 seconds is 84 Chinese granddad eats Trader Joe's Chinese food. Part 2. Click on this link to watch the whole video. So I got about 30 seconds in. Let's say 47 seconds.
Right.
And I went.
They've got you hooked.
It's got me hooked, and I've got to hit that. And so I go there and I watch it, about a 5-minute long video on YouTube. And it was mildly entertaining. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. Fake Food Channel. And at the end of it, I sat there, I watched it, and I went, you know what I did? You know what I've spent the last 5 minutes of my time doing? Watching a couple of Asian American dudes eat Chinese food and talk about it. And that was about the silliest way to kill time at 5 o'clock in the morning this morning.
Yeah, well, you helped make them some money.
I guess I did help him make him some money.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, 54-year-old dude's doing silly stuff like that, but I'm doing that really at 5 o'clock in the morning. How many people, Sam and Courtney, do you think, not necessarily at Oakworth Capital Bank, because one of our core values is
work
ethic.
Right.
How many people across the United States are sitting there having that time suck from hitting on that extra link and watching the TikTok, watching the reel, and then all of a sudden going, oops.
And then think how much worse it is for remote workers. I mean, I
think it depends on the individual.
I don't. I think broadly speaking, if no one is talking to you and walking by you, and I think...
Ooh, that's going to be so tough. Courtney works remotely on Tuesdays, so
can you
imagine how difficult that's going to be? Ooh, I can feel the George Washington in my palm right now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I will say, as someone who doesn't work remotely, I don't think Sam can speak to that. I feel like when you do, it's a privilege, and you work probably more diligently to have something that you tangibly...
That sounds a little idealistic.
Well, maybe, but you wouldn't know because you don't work remotely.
Well,
but
I think the assumption is, at least.
Well, maybe, and that's probably why people have gone back into the workforce, because people don't know how to manage people who are remote.
So there has never been a time when you're working remote, we're talking about attention span, whether or not you have a greater attention span at work or at home, never been a time when you're working at home that you've sat down and eaten bonbons.
I don't know what bonbons are, so I would say that no, there has not been a time that I've done that. I'm not saying that
anything like that.
I don't think that it's drastically different, other than the fact that I don't have people walking into my office, or I don't have just the distraction of hearing someone talk and look up and be like, oh, who's that, or water cooler talk. I mean, but there's value add to that, and I know that that's not really where we're going with this conversation. I think what's interesting is when you talk about you watched that 5-minute video. I mean, they're saying that people, that's pretty good that your attention span got you to click on that link and watch the whole video. But normally when you're watching reels, it's 40.
I'm so proud of you.
It's 47 seconds, and then you're scrolling to the next item.
I feel like an idiot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But regardless, even if it's social media, or if it's that you have your email up, we all have 2 screens here, and so it's you have your email up. Okay, ping, I've got an email. I'm looking at that, but I've been working on this one pager, or I'm working on board minutes, or whatever it is that I'm actually needing to focus on, they say the same article that I had quoted the time or the attention spans earlier, they were saying that their research showed that when you do have that squirrel, experience where
Squirrel.
it's, the squirrel, like, the Up movie where they say
okay.
squirrel, where it pulls you away from what you're doing, it takes you an average of 25 minutes and 26 seconds to get back into where you were in the project or where you
come
were
on.
I mean, hey, I'm reading right here what it says.
Is
I
that
think
what-
it does.
Is that why your board minutes always seem so disjointed? It seems like you're
No, they
you're
flow
writing them
perfectly.
at
They flow
completely
perfectly.
different times. Yeah.
They always flow well, but it does take me a ridiculous long time to do it. I think people undervalue minutes.
Sounds like it.
I wish somebody else would do them, but
Who?
exactly.
Yeah.
But I do find that interesting. I think, I don't know if that's saying that you spend 25 minutes on that squirrel item, whether it's social media or. Do you not like that terminology?
Just to know what that word you're talking about.
Have you not watched the movie Up?
Once when it came out.
Well, in this article they also reference.
I've not seen it.
Squirrel. Well, anyways, I think that is, to me, really surprising that it takes you 20 to 25 minutes. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's wrong. I think it probably does. And when you, like, for junior achievement, I went with one of our fellow associates to a local high school, and it was unfathomable that every single student had a cell phone, and they had them out. Like, back in my day, right? When you had a cell phone at school,
I didn't know
like,
they had cell phones back then.
thank you.
Well,
Sam,
it was
they
a
did.
tin cup with twine.
They didn't when John was in high school, but when I was in high school, we had cell phones.
Like the car phones.
She's just so tickled with herself.
Yes, they did have cell phones, and if you had one, it was like you were a drug dealer and you were like sent to the office, and they would make your parents come and get your cell phone. Like, it was a whole thing. But now they all have it, and in the middle of class, they are looking at their cell phones, and I'm like, I don't know if this was just the class that we were in, but that just seemed like, how are they focused when
So,
they all have
do you
cell
think
phones?
social media specifically should not be allowed under, say, 18 years old?
I know you feel that way, but there's not.
But you're
I mean,
kind of making a case for it.
I think so.
I don't know that I
Don't you
don't
need
see.
a
I
don't
cannot imagine right now how you would regulate that. And I also don't necessarily think that that's. I mean, I think that's a parent's place to say, you know what, this is not healthy for you, and we need to cut this back. But
Well, the technology is out there to do it if they just really wanted to use it. Let's say you made it 16, you had to type in a valid Alabama driver's license in order to sign up to Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or what have you. It's very doable. It's just a question of changing the account login procedures a little bit.
yeah, but I mean, just like anything,
I mean, but
just because it's illegal, they can get around it.
well, of course. I mean, the drinking age 21. I mean, and I'm sure you probably waited to 21 to have your
course
first
I
drink
did.
and all
Of
that
course I
stuff, but I didn't. And so all that stuff. But just think about that sweet little girl that you have. We're going on 2 years old now, a little bit. Just think about that. All the pressure she's going to feel from the kids that might have nicer clothes and have a nicer mommy.
Thanks. I'm sure there are plenty of things that I will do
all
to
that
my
stuff.
children.
Wouldn't
that
it be
will scar
great
them.
to try to shield her from that sense of hopelessness that you've talked about with the young women getting very depressed with
Of
social
course,
media?
Of course.
So you wouldn't be for banning it for people under a certain age?
I don't know that I think that that's the government's place to ban it.
But let's just say the same for alcohol and tobacco and
Speed-
firearms and
speed limits?
seatbelts and
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that
Look,
you don't have a valid argument. I'm just saying I don't agree.
my stance. My stance is that I'm anti-government regulation for almost anything. The exclusion is things that have negative externalities and negative health impact.
Yeah. So during Lent, when you're giving up, what happens at the end of Lent if you do go through 40 days of not using it? If you can do it, what do you think the likelihood? What do you think the likelihood of you going back to your former self and watching 47-second reels and all that stuff and just absolutely spending time away from the people that love you the most as your children are crying at your ankles all that stuff. What's the What's the
Such a beautiful visual right there.
What's the likelihood that you're going to go back to using social media the same way that you were using it before Lent?
I don't know, John. I really do hope that this will help, one, make me realize how much time I wasted on it. And I don't plan to jump right back in, but to phase it in, to be able to hopefully have a better balance and control over it.
Well, if you think about what you just talked about, is you're phasing back into an addiction that you said that you've had. Is that a wise thing to do, to phase back into an addiction? Same your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's what people do when they quit smoking cigarettes for a while. It's just ease right back into it.
Yeah, just ease right back into it. So maybe Courtney, this is the first step in a 12-step process.
I feel like this is an intervention.
First step in a 12-step process to have you wean from Facebook and TikTok. Or Instagram. I keep on saying TikTok.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see where we get.
Yeah.
I think 40 days is a lot easier to say, okay, I'm going to approach it this way. And like you said, turning it into a positive, and then we'll see. We'll see what comes out of it.
I think you shouldn't think of this, Courtney.
As a positive?
No, I don't think you should think of this as giving up something. Courtney, I think you should think of this as giving yourself something.
Or getting something.
That's what I think.
Yeah, getting something back. Time. That's what I need.
Time, so you can give your children the love that they need. You can give the attention to Alex, your suffering husband.
Suffering husband. Thank you. Such great adjectives.
that he needs as a man, and it being a better daughter, and all this stuff that you have admitted that you might not be doing because of all the time you spend on social media.
You're putting words in my mouth, John. I don't think I said that.
I mean, how many minutes a day do you think you watch reels and whatnot on social media?
I don't know if you have this on your phone, but it tells you how much you spend online, maybe, or
you can break it down by the apps and all that.
Yeah, so it tells me every Sunday. Normally, when I'm sitting in church, it'll say
that's a sign of a true addict in church. She's
still
looking.
scrolling.
I'm saying that it tells me.
She's still going through
it
Instagram.
Says weekly, like your weekly time.
Not really digging that first reading today.
It notifies you, and so I'm hoping that will go down, because it does tell you. It says how many hours you've spent throughout the week.
So we're talking about hours.
Yes, throughout the week, 7 days. It will say you spent 3 hours.
I'm thinking, Courtney, from what I've heard Sam, and you might agree with me, I think it's probably a little bit more than 3 hours.
I don't know. I don't. But it also includes if you're watching Netflix, or if you're watching Amazon Prime. I think if I'm watching a show while folding clothes, that's not social media. I'm talking about reels and other things like that.
All right. So all of this does sound like really. The social media really, and attention spans, sounds like social media really, for all intents and purposes, what Courtney is giving up for Lent.
Yes, and I hope you're giving up. I feel like we did not give the allocated time.
We're almost out of time.
to you giving up alcohol, but only during the work week.
So giving up social media and some other stuff, I would say really, we've been teasing Courtney a lot today, but as we always do. But the truth is, I would say really social media, more than any other new technology, really has killed a lot of worker productivity. People do get lost in their phones. And we've seen it with workers in stores. You can't get help. People behind the cash register should be taking orders.
Or even at professional work environments.
You see all that type of stuff that if there were some sort of, and Sam, you're right. This is a health problem in my estimation. Mental health problem for a lot of people. No one wants to talk about it because it's kind of fun. It starts off fun, and then all of a sudden it's like having a sundae. The first Sunday you have, it's hey. Then all of a sudden, if you eat a sundae every day, you're going to be a bloated mess. Trust me on that. And so that's one of those deals that I really wish there were a way I can go put my brain around it. How do we reel in social media so we don't waste so much time as a society on stuff that is silly? And a lot of it is really silly. My watching two Chinese American guys eat Trader Joe's food, that's silly. That's real silly. There's stuff out there that's even sillier than that.
I agree.
Yep.
So, with that, I'm not exactly sure if we accomplished anything today other than give Courtney a hard time.
Yeah,
but I do think that we established that social media really, in general, really has helped to kill a lot of overall worker productivity. Courtney is going to give up social media. She said she's going to for Lent. Sam and I both have a dollar that she shook on. You couldn't see that. She shook on it here at Trading Perspectives. That says she won't be able to do it. But if she is able to do it, Sam, I'm fully expecting a lot of good work coming out of Courtney here at Oakworth Capital Bank. And just imagine the volume of the output's going to increase significantly. Sam, your thoughts on that?
Right.
Courtney, your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's going to increase significantly. Yeah,
I do.
I feel like
and
it's
with
going
that,
to be.
and with that, guys, I'm going to give y'all last chance to say anything about this topic.
That's all I got.
That's it, John.
All right, that's all I've got today too. All right, but before we sign off completely, I do have to say, if you enjoyed what you heard here today, please by all means drop us a line. You can always reach us at tradingperspectives@oakworth.com, or you can leave us a review on the podcast outlet of your choice. As always, if you're interested in reading more or hearing more of what we have to say or how we think, please go to oakworth.com, take a look underneath the Thought Leadership tab, and find all kinds of exciting information. With that, I screwed up earlier. Give y'all a last chance to have something to say on this topic.
That's all I got.
All right, thank you so much. That's all I've got today too. Y'all take care.